Groom invited his ex to humiliate her at his wedding, but when she showed up with two boys identical to him, everyone was shocked. Tyler Mitchell was restless in front of the mirror. The wedding happening in 2 hours wasn't just his union with Megan Phillips, but the consolidation of his image as the most sought-after TV host in the region. With a calculated smile, he picked up his phone and checked the guest list one more time. His eyes stopped exactly on the name he had included. At the last minute, Emma Fields. He felt a mixture of satisfaction and revenge, imagining her face when she saw him at the altar with another woman. "Everything ready for the live broadcast?" he asked his press assistant Debbie, who didn't take her eyes off her tablet. "The sponsors have confirmed their attendance, and the cameras are strategically positioned throughout the Cedar Palace ballroom," she replied anxiously. Tyler smiled, satisfied. His wedding would be the most talked-about event of the year, broadcast to millions of followers. Emma's entrance, his ex-girlfriend whom he had left 5 years ago when he got his first TV show, would be just a small detail to prove to everyone that he had moved on, while she probably remained stagnant in the same mediocre life. What Tyler didn't know was that, a few miles away in a modest apartment in the west side of Chicago, Emma was preparing to attend the event, not alone as he imagined, but accompanied by 2 4-year-old children. Luke and Matthew were excited in their identical little suits, not understanding the magnitude of what was about to happen. "Mom, are we going to meet our dad today?" Matthew asked, his eyes shining with expectation. Emma took a deep breath, feeling her heart race. "Yes, my love, today everyone will meet you." The invitation had arrived unexpectedly, through a message from Bethany, Tyler's sister. "He wants to humiliate you, Emma, but maybe it's time for the truth to come out," the message said. Bethany had always known about the twins, but was silenced by her brother and the family who valued their public image more than moral responsibility. For years, Emma had tried to contact Tyler to inform him about the pregnancy, but her numbers were blocked, her messages ignored, and when she finally managed to reach the mansion where he lived, she was barred by security guards who treated her like an obsessive fan. At Cedar Palace, one of the most exclusive event venues in Chicago, guests were beginning to arrive. Politicians, celebrities, influential business people, the cream of Chicago society, paraded down the red carpets while cameras captured every movement. Megan, the bride, daughter of an important cosmetics industry businessman, was radiant in her exclusive Givenchy dress. She represented everything Tyler aspired to: status, money, and connections. Love was secondary in a relationship, built on mutual interests. Among the groomsmen, Greg Reynolds looked at everything with a certain discomfort. Tyler's friend since their college days in communications, he was the only one who knew the real intention behind Emma's invitation. She won't have the courage to show up, Tyler had bet at his bachelor party. But if she does, I'll make sure to show her how her life crumbled while mine only prospered. Greg swallowed hard, uncomfortable with his friend's arrogance, but silent as he had always been about Tyler's questionable attitudes. Mrs. Linda Mitchell, Tyler's mother, circulated among the guests with her artificial smile. Impeccably dressed. In a sky-blue tweed suit, she greeted everyone as if she were the star of the party. In a more discreet corner, Bethany, Tyler's sister, constantly checked her phone, visibly nervous. She had sent the exact location to Emma and was anxiously awaiting the arrival that would change the course of the ceremony. The PR team was rushing for the final adjustments. "We're live in 3, 2, 1, announced the broadcast director. The cameras began capturing all the details of the event that would be broadcast on the main social networks. Tyler had closed million-dollar advertising contracts. His wedding wasn't just a personal moment, but a product to be consumed by the public that idolized him. When the master of ceremonies announced the groom's entrance, all eyes turned to Tyler, who walked with firm steps and a rehearsed smile. The cameras followed him, capturing his expression of achievement. He was exactly where he always wanted to be, in the spotlight, admired, envied. Worth every penny, he thought to himself as he saw the room full of people who for the most part he barely knew, but who represented the influence he so sought. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially Subscribe to the channel, it really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The soft music played as guests took their seats. The ceremony was about to begin when a commotion at the entrance of the hall caught some attention. Emma had arrived, elegant in a simple but sophisticated dress, holding the hands of two identical children. The silence began to spread like waves, until all eyes turned to her and the little ones accompanying her. Tyler, who was chatting animatedly with his best man at the improvised altar, felt the mood change. He followed the direction of the gazes until he found Emma standing at the entrance with the two boys. His smile instantly froze. Even from a distance, it was impossible not to notice the extraordinary resemblance between the children and him. The same almond-shaped green eyes, the marked chin, even the way they slightly tilted their heads to the side. "Who are those children?" asked Megan, arriving at Tyler's side and noticing his disturbed expression. Before he could answer, one of the boys pointed in his direction and said in a childish voice but perfectly audible, "Mom, it's him. It's the dad from TV." The silence that followed was deafening. The cameras, which were capturing everything, live quickly turned to the scene. Thousands of viewers were witnessing the exact moment when Tyler's face lost all its color. Megan, confused and embarrassed, took a step back, looking from her fiancé to the children, trying to process what she had just heard. "Is this some kind of joke?" Tyler finally managed to stammer, trying to regain his composure. But his trembling voice betrayed him. Emma advanced a few steps, maintaining the calm she had rehearsed for days. "It's no joke, Tyler. These are Luke and Matthew, your sons. They just turned 4 years old, and I thought it was time they met their father." The words fell like bombs in the silent hall. Mrs. Mitchell brought her hands to her face, while the broadcast director tried to decide whether to cut the signal or continue capturing the scandal that would certainly yield millions of views. He opted for the second option. "This is absurd. An extortion attempt," exclaimed Tyler, recovering part of his usual arrogance. "You show up at my wedding with 2 random children and try to defame me in front of everyone." Bethany, who had been watching everything from a distance, could no longer contain herself. She approached her brother with determined steps. "They are your children, Tyler. I've always known. I saw the pregnancy tests, the ultrasounds. Emma tried to tell you dozens of times, but you blocked all her contacts." "You knew?" asked Megan, turning to Bethany with teary eyes. "Everyone knew except me." The buzz spread throughout the hall. Guests began commenting among themselves while the cameras captured every reaction. On social media, the live broadcast exploded with shares and comments. The perfect wedding had turned into a national scandal in a matter of minutes. Tyler, trying to regain control of the situation, pulled Greg to a corner. "Do something. Offer her money, any amount, but get her out of here with those kids." Greg hesitated. For years he had been a silent accomplice to Tyler's lies and schemes. "I can't be part of this anymore," he finally said. "You bet she wouldn't have the courage to show up." "Well, she showed up, and with proof you can't deny." Megan, who had approached without them noticing, overheard the conversation. "You invited her to humiliate her. Is that what I'm understanding?" Her voice was loaded with disappointment and anger. "It's nothing like that, honey. This woman is crazy. These boys don't even look like me," Tyler tried to explain, but his words sounded empty in the face of the evidence everyone could see. In an impulsive gesture, Megan walked away and went directly to where Emma was standing with the children. The guests made way, capturing the scene with their phones. "Please tell me the truth," she asked, looking into the other woman's eyes. "Are these boys really his children?" Emma held her gaze. "Yes, they are. I have all the documents, tests, everything necessary to prove it. I didn't come here to ruin your day, but these children have the right to know their father." While the 2 women talked, Mrs. Mitchell approached the grandchildren she had never met. She knelt in front of them, observing every detail that screamed their kinship with her son. "My God, they're the spitting image of Tyler when he was that age," she murmured, lightly touching one of the boys' faces. Tyler, seeing his mother interact with the children, felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. The situation was completely out of control. The cameras continued broadcasting everything, and he could imagine the comments on social media destroying the image he had taken years to build. Let's solve this in private, he tried to negotiate, approaching Emma. We don't need to expose the children to this circus. Now you're concerned about their exposure? Emma replied with bitterness in her voice. For 4 years I tried to find you, sent letters, emails, tried to talk to your family. You didn't care at all. They grew up without a father by your choice, not mine. Megan, who was listening to everything, felt increasingly deceived. She walked towards the bridal preparation room, needing a moment to process what was happening. Absent-mindedly rummaging through her purse for a tissue, she found a letter she hadn't seen before. It was addressed to Tyler, with Emma's name as the sender. The date was from 3 months ago. With trembling hands, she opened the envelope and read the contents. It was Emma's last attempt to inform Tyler about his children before the wedding, explaining in detail the whole story, from the discovery of the pregnancy to the numerous frustrated contact attempts. The letter ended saying that she had decided to respect his choice not to participate in the children's lives, but that the children were beginning to ask questions about their father, and she didn't want to lie to them. The door opened, and Bethany entered, finding Megan with the letter in her hands. He knew, said Megan with a choked voice. He received this 3 months ago and hid it from me. Bethany nodded sadly. Tyler has always been a master at hiding what isn't convenient for him. Emma isn't the first woman he abandoned when she became inconvenient. In the hall, the situation remained tense. The guests didn't know whether to stay or discreetly leave. Some, closer to the family, tried to calm the mood, while others simply enjoyed the unexpected spectacle. Social media exploded with hashtags about the wedding of the year that had transformed into the scandal of the year. Robert Mitchell, Tyler's father, who had arrived late due to work commitments, entered the hall completely unaware of the chaos that had ensued. Upon noticing the tense atmosphere and seeing Emma with the children, he stopped, dumbfounded. What's happening here? Before anyone could explain, one of the boys, Luke, ran towards Tyler. Are you really my dad? Why did you never visit us? The innocent question, asked with large green eyes fixed on Tyler, silenced everyone. It was the simplest and, at the same time, the most devastating question. Tyler, for the first time, found no words. Robert, observing the scene, immediately understood what was happening. With determined steps, he approached his son. You will answer that boy right now, and I hope, for your sake, that the answer is worthy. The pressure from his father, combined with everyone's stares and the cameras that continued broadcasting, finally made Tyler yield. I didn't know about you, he lied, looking at Luke. Your mother never told me. Emma, who had approached to stand beside her son, couldn't contain her indignation. How can you lie looking into his eyes? You blocked all my contacts when you found out about the pregnancy. Your sister can confirm she was there when you threw away the test I showed you. Robert turned to his son with evident disappointment. Is this true, Tyler? You abandoned a pregnant woman and hid your own children? Before Tyler could respond, Robert continued, with a voice loaded with contained emotion. I made many mistakes. In life, son. I was absent with you and your sister, put work above family many times, but never, ever would I deny my responsibility as a father. His father's words hit Tyler like a punch. His entire life had been an attempt to surpass Robert, to prove that he could be more successful, more admired. And now, in front of everyone, he was being exposed as someone who had fallen even lower than the failures he so criticized in his father. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. As tension increased, the live broadcast was suddenly interrupted. The screens of thousands of viewers who were following the event showed a technical error message. In the hall, Debbie, Tyler's assistant, was discreetly turning off the broadcasting equipment under orders from someone on the team. Who authorized cutting the transmission? Asked the director, furious with the interference. Direct order from Mr. Mitchell Sr., replied one of the technicians, pointing to Robert, who had approached the controllers. He said, we've had enough. Spectacle for today. But it was too late. In the minutes the broadcast was on air, hundreds of clips had already been saved and shared. The scandal was spreading like wildfire. with comments, analyses, and even memes being created in real time. Tyler Mitchell's perfect wedding had transformed into his worst nightmare. Megan returned to the hall with a washed face and a determined expression. She walked directly to the center, where Tyler was trying to explain himself to his father and the few guests who remained. "This wedding is cancelled," she announced in a firm voice. "I will not unite myself with a man who lies to me about something so fundamental." A murmur ran through the hall. Tyler tried to hold Megan's arm, but she dodged. "Don't touch me. I don't want to hear any more lies. I demand a DNA test before any further conversation." "A DNA test?" repeated Tyler, offended. "You're doubting my word?" "Your word is worth nothing, Tyler," Megan replied with coldness. "I read the letter Emma sent you 3 months ago. You knew everything and hid it from me." The few remaining guests watched the scene with a mixture of embarrassment and fascination, among them several celebrities and influencers who were already beginning to indirectly post about the incident on their social networks, further amplifying the scandal's reach. Emma, noticing that the children were frightened by all the confusion, tried to discreetly say goodbye. She pulled the boys by the hand towards the exit, but was intercepted by Mrs. Mitchell. "Please don't go yet," the lady asked, with tearful eyes. "These boys are my grandchildren. I need to at least get to know them properly." Emma hesitated. She didn't want to prolong that embarrassing situation, but she also couldn't deny the children the right to know their paternal family. "Maybe we can schedule another time, in a calmer environment," she suggested. "Yes, of course," Mrs. Mitchell quickly agreed. "Here's my card with my personal number. Please call me. I want to make up for the lost years." Bethany approached, offering to accompany Emma and the children to the exit. As they walked through the corridors of Cedar Palace, away from curious eyes, Bethany finally expressed what she had felt for years. "Forgive me, Emma. I should have done more to help you and the boys. I was a coward." Emma gently squeezed her ex-sister-in-law's arm. "You did what you could. You sent the invitation. You warned me. Without you, maybe this truth would never have come to light." Outside, a car was waiting to take Emma and the twins away. Before getting in, she looked one last time at the luxurious building where her past and present had collided so dramatically. She didn't feel the pleasure of revenge some might expect, just a profound relief for finally breaking the silence that had suffocated her for years. In the hall, the chaos continued. Megan had retreated to the bridal room, accompanied by her bridesmaids and mother, who tried to console her. Tyler, surrounded by Greg and other close friends, was trying to formulate a strategy to minimize the damage to his public image. "We need an official statement immediately," insisted Debbie, the assistant. "Something that shows you as a victim in this story, maybe saying she never properly informed you, and that now you're willing to take responsibility." Tyler seemed lost in his own thoughts. For the first time in his adult life, he couldn't see an easy way out. His career, built on the image of a modern, charming, and upright man, was at risk. Sponsors would certainly back away after the scandal, and TV networks might question his permanence as a host of family programs. "Son, we need to talk," said Robert, dismissing Tyler's advisors. Not as one businessman speaking to another, but as father and son. Tyler followed his father to a reserved corner of the hall. Robert, usually pragmatic and contained, seemed deeply moved. "When your mother told me she was pregnant with you, my first reaction was terror. I was 22, starting my career, didn't feel ready. I considered all possible exits, except the most obvious one, assuming my responsibility." Tyler listened attentively, never having heard this version of the family story before. "It was your grandfather who called me for a conversation similar to this one," continued Robert. "He told me something I never forgot. A man is not measured by what he achieves, but by what he takes responsibility for. I then decided to stay by your mother's side and be your father, despite all the fear I felt." "Why are you telling me this now?" asked Tyler, uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. "Because you're at the same crossroads, son, and unfortunately, until now, you've chosen the wrong path. But there's still time to do the right thing." His father's words resonated with Tyler. Behind all his arrogance and ambition was a boy who had always sought paternal approval. Seeing the disappointment in Robert's eyes was more painful than any public criticism could be. Meanwhile, in a more discreet corner of the hall, Megan and Emma found themselves in an unexpected conversation. Megan had asked to speak with Emma before she left. "Did you know he was engaged?" asked Megan, firmly holding the letter she had found. "Yes, I saw it in the media. I wasn't planning to show up at the wedding, but when I received Bethany's invitation, I thought it was an opportunity to finally make Tyler acknowledge his children," explained Emma. "I didn't want to ruin your day, but I needed to think of my children first." Megan nodded, understanding. "You didn't ruin anything. In fact, you saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life." The two women looked at each other with a mutual understanding that transcended the situation. Both had been deceived by the same man at different times. Instead of rivals, they discovered themselves as allies. "What will you do now?" asked Emma. "Demand the DNA test as a formality, and then break off definitively," replied Megan with determination. "And you?" "Continue my life as I've always done, but now with the hope that my children can have some kind of relationship with their paternal family, even if not with Tyler himself." The cameras, which had been reconnected after the initial intervention, discreetly captured the moment when the two women hugged, sealing an unlikely alliance. The image, shared on social networks, quickly became a symbol of sisterhood and resilience. Behind the scenes of the hall, Greg confronted Tyler. "You need to admit that you lied. To all of us, you said Emma was just a passing fling, that there was never anything serious." "And there wasn't," Tyler defended himself. "It was a brief relationship with no defined commitments. Brief or not, it resulted in 2 children that you abandoned," retorted Greg, losing patience. "Did you know I was the one who blocked her?" "Number on your phone. You asked me to do that after she showed you the pregnancy test. You said it was a scam attempt, that she just wanted your money." "And how could I know it wasn't?" argued Tyler, trying to shift the blame. "You could have done a DNA test at the time, like any responsible person would. But you preferred to run away and pretend the problem didn't exist, and now we're all here, involved in your scandal." Tyler realized he was losing the few allies. He had left. Greg had always been his right-hand man, helping to build his career since college days. Seeing him turn his back was almost as hard a blow as the public revelation of his paternity. On the other side of the hall, Mrs. Mitchell was conversing with her grandchildren, enchanted with every expression and gesture that reminded her of her son as a child. "Do you like ice cream?" she asked, trying to establish a connection. "Yes," they answered in unison, with the same characteristic Mitchell smile. "The next time we meet, I'll take you to the best ice cream parlor in Chicago," promised the grandmother, moved by the opportunity to finally meet her grandchildren. Bethany observed the scene with a mixture of joy and sadness. Joy at seeing her mother finally meeting her grandchildren. Sadness for the years lost due to her brother's stubbornness and pride. She approached Emma, who was finishing her conversation with Megan. "Thank you for coming," said Bethany, hugging her ex-sister-in-law. "I know it was difficult, but it was necessary." "It was for them," replied Emma, looking at her sons, who were now smiling at their grandmother. "They needed to know their family, to know where they come from." News of the scandal had spread beyond Cedar Palace. In the studios of the TV network where Tyler worked, executives were holding an emergency meeting to decide how to handle the situation. The host was the face of one of the highest-rated shows on Sunday afternoons, aimed at families. His public image was directly linked to that of the network. "We need to take a position immediately," said the programming director. "If we remain silent, it will seem like we support this kind of behavior. But we can't simply fire him without hearing his side of the story," argued another executive. "He could sue the network for breach of contract." "Sponsors are already calling," informed the commercial director. 3 of them have already signaled they may suspend their contracts if we keep Tyler on air." The heated discussion reflected the magnitude of the scandal. Tyler wasn't just a host, but a product, a brand that sold credibility and trust. Values that were now deeply shaken. Back at Cedar Palace, guests were beginning to leave, many discreetly commenting on what had happened while waiting for their cars at the valet parking. Some, closer to the Mitchell family, remained in solidarity, trying to help minimize the embarrassment. Tyler, increasingly isolated, saw when Emma was preparing to leave with the children. On impulse, he approached her. "Can we talk in private?" Emma hesitated, distrustful. "I have nothing more to hide, Tyler. Anything you want to tell me can be said right here." "Please," he insisted with a tone of voice that Emma hadn't heard since the times they were together, a tone that seemed genuinely vulnerable. Reluctantly, she asked Bethany to stay with the children for a few minutes and followed Tyler to an adjacent room. When the door closed, he collapsed into a chair, rubbing his face with his hands. "Why now, Emma? Why didn't you wait until after the wedding?" "Wait? You think I should have waited longer? It's been 4 years, Tyler. 4 years trying to make you take your responsibility. When I received the invitation, I understood it was my last chance. Before you started a new family, completely forgetting that you already had one." Tyler raised his eyes, surprised by Emma's firmness. The insecure young woman he had met years ago, fresh out of college with an education degree and dreaming of opening her own preschool, now stood before him as a strong woman, secure in her decisions. "I would have helped financially if you, Kaigi, had insisted," he murmured, still trying to shift the blame. "It's not about money, it never was," exclaimed Emma, momentarily losing her composure. "It's about 2 boys who ask about their father every day, who see their little friends being picked up from school by their dads and wonder why theirs never shows up. It's about responsibility, Tyler, something you apparently never learned despite all your success." The words hit Tyler like a slap. For years he had constructed a narrative in his mind where Emma was just an opportunist wanting a slice of his fortune. Confronting the reality that she just wanted him to be a father to his children was devastating to his ego. "I'll do the DNA test," he finally said, "and if confirmed, I want to establish a formal visitation and child support agreement." Emma shook her head, disappointed. "You still don't understand, do you? I don't want your money or court-ordered visits. I want you to be a real father to them if you're capable of that. If not, it's better to stay away than to show up when it's convenient." Without waiting for a response, she left the room, returning to where Bethany was waiting with the children. "We're leaving," she announced, taking the children by the hands. "May I visit them next week?" asked Mrs. Mitchell with hope in her voice. "Of course," replied Emma, smiling kindly at the lady. "I'll call to arrange it." As Emma and the twins left the venue, accompanied by Bethany, who insisted on ensuring they reached the car safely, Megan was finalizing her conversation with her parents. The wedding cancellation would be officially announced the next day, after a formal conversation with the groom's family. "Are you sure this is what you want, darling?" asked Megan's father, concerned about the scandal that was already forming. "I am," she replied with surprising tranquility. "I prefer to face the embarrassment of a cancelled wedding than the unhappiness of a marriage based on lies." Megan's mother, an elegant and discreet woman, hugged her daughter. "We're with you, dear. And honestly, I think you were lucky to discover his character before the wedding." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The hours that followed were chaotic for everyone involved. Tyler, advised by his public relations team, decided to discreetly leave Cedar Palace through the employee exit, avoiding the photographers who were already gathering at the main entrance. His bulletproof car was waiting with the engine running, ready for a quick escape. Upon entering the vehicle, Tyler found his father already seated in the back seat. "We need an immediate action plan," said Robert, dispensing with any introduction. "The network has called 3 times in the last 20 minutes. "What do they want?" asked Tyler, feeling the weight of the situation intensify. "An explanation to start, and guarantees that this won't affect the channel's image." Tyler closed his eyes, trying to organize his thoughts. His life, so carefully planned, was crumbling before his eyes. The wedding, which would have been the peak of his social climb, had transformed into his greatest public fiasco. "I'll deny everything," he finally said. "I'll say she's lying, that the children aren't mine, that it's an extortion attempt." Robert looked at his son with a mixture of disappointment and incredulity. "You still haven't understood the gravity of the situation, have you? These children are your sons, Tyler. Anyone can see the resemblance. A DNA test will confirm it, and then your lie will only make everything worse." "What do you suggest, then?" asked Tyler, irritated by his father's lack of support. "The truth. Admit that you knew about the pregnancy, that you were afraid, that you made a mistake by walking away. Take responsibility and show willingness to change, to be a present father from now on. That would destroy my image." "Your image is already destroyed, son. Now it's a matter of rebuilding something more solid based on truth, not appearances." Tyler remained silent, absorbing his father's harsh words. Throughout his adult life, he had dedicated himself to building an impeccable public persona, the charismatic host, the coveted bachelor who had finally found true love. Everything was part of a carefully crafted narrative, and now, in a matter of hours, that narrative had been shattered. Tyler's cell phone rang incessantly. Messages from friends, colleagues, journalists, and even hate messages from strangers flooded his social media. The hashtag #NewOneTylerMitchellDad was already among the most discussed topics online. Meanwhile, in Emma's modest apartment on the west side, the twins slept exhausted after an intense day. Bethany, who had insisted on accompanying them home, was sitting in the small living room, talking in a low voice with Emma. "You were very brave today," said Bethany, admiring her ex-sister-in-law's posture throughout the episode. "I had no choice," replied Emma, sipping tea to calm her nerves. "When I received your invitation, I understood it was now or never. If Tyler married Megan, they would probably have children soon, and my boys would be relegated to oblivion forever. Knowing my brother, you're right. He would be capable of completely erasing this chapter of his life if he could." Emma sighed, looking at the hallway leading to the room where the twins slept. "You know what's saddest? They're so excited to have finally met their father. Luke is already making plans to show Tyler his drawings, his favorite toys. They don't understand what really happened today." Bethany felt a tightness in her heart. "My brother will have to grow up a lot to deserve these boys." "I just hope he doesn't hurt them even more," confessed Emma. "I prefer he remains absent, then appears only when it's convenient for his public image." The sound of a notification interrupted the conversation. Bethany checked her phone and her face paled. The network just released an official statement. They're temporarily removing Tyler from the show while the situation is clarified. Emma shook her head, finding no satisfaction in the news. "I didn't want to harm his career, I just wanted him to acknowledge his children." "You didn't harm anything, Emma. He did this to himself with his choices." The next morning, the story was in all the newspapers and gossip shows. "Famous host abandons twin children and is caught at his own wedding," announced the sensationalist headlines. Tyler's private life, previously so carefully controlled, was now exposed to the entire country. Megan, who had stayed at her parents' house after the wedding fiasco, woke up to dozens of messages and missed calls. Journalists, curious friends, even TV shows wanting exclusivity for her version of the story. She ignored them all, focusing only on Emma's message, sent the night before. "Thank you for your understanding. If you need to talk, I'm here." It was strange to feel a connection with the woman who technically should be her rival. But Megan recognized in Emma an admirable strength and dignity. Both had been deceived by the same man at different times, and both had chosen to face the truth, however painful it might be. Tyler, on the other hand, had spent the night wide awake, meeting with his lawyers and press consultants. The initial strategy of denying everything had been quickly discarded, especially after Robert threatened to wash his hands of the case if his son insisted on this path. "We need a narrative that humanizes him," suggested Debbie, the consultant. "Admitting the mistake, showing remorse, talking about the fear of not being up to fatherhood. Won't that sound too fake?" questioned Tyler, still reluctant to accept defeat. "More fake than denying children who are your spitting image? Impossible," replied the consultant with unusual frankness. After hours of discussion, it was agreed that Tyler would make an official pronouncement through a video on social media. He wouldn't give interviews or appear in public for a few weeks, until the worst of the storm passed. He would also agree to officially take the DNA test and, assuming the result confirmed paternity, would begin a process of gradual approach with his children. "This won't save your marriage," warned the lawyer, being realistic. "Megan has already contacted us expressing intention to formalize the breaking of the engagement. At this point, that's the least of my problems," Tyler replied bitterly. While the team finalized preparations for recording the video, Tyler received an unexpected message from Bethany. "Mom is visiting the twins this afternoon. She asked me to ask if you want to go along." Tyler stared at the message for long minutes. It was an opportunity to begin repairing the damage, to meet his children in a more controlled environment. But it also meant facing Emma again, this time without the shield of denial. After much thought, he replied, "Tell Mom I'll go another time. I'm not ready for that meeting yet." Bethany did not hide her disappointment in the response. "They are your children, Tyler. Not a work commitment that you can postpone when you're not ready." His sister's words hit him, but not enough to change his decision. Still dominated by wounded pride, Tyler preferred to deal with the situation from a distance, through intermediaries. That afternoon, Mrs. Mitchell visited her grandchildren for the first time officially. She arrived loaded with presents, educational toys, brand-name clothes, even a small bicycle for each one. Emma, although uncomfortable with the extravagance, understood it was the grandmother's way of trying to make up for lost time. "They are so intelligent," commented Mrs. Mitchell, enchanted after hearing Luke recite a small poem he had learned in school. "And well-mannered. You've done an incredible job, Emma." "Thank you," replied Emma, genuinely touched by the recognition. It wasn't easy, but it was worth every effort. Mrs. Mitchell hesitated before asking the question that consumed her. "Tyler, did he mention when he's coming to properly meet them?" Emma shook her head. "I haven't had any contact with him since yesterday, but honestly I prefer that he comes when he really wants to, not out of obligation or pressure." The grandmother nodded, understanding. "My son has always been stubborn and proud, since childhood, but deep down, he has a good heart. He just needs to find it again." As they talked, Emma's cell phone rang. It was a call from an unknown number. Hesitantly, she answered. "Miss Fields, this is from America TV. We would like to invite you for an exclusive interview about the recent events involving host Tyler Mitchell." Emma refused immediately. "I have no interest in publicly exploiting this story. It's a family matter and should remain so." After hanging up, she explained to Mrs. Mitchell, "That's the third interview proposal today. It seems everyone wants to hear my side of the story." "And what is your side?" asked the lady, genuinely curious. "That there are no sides, Mrs. Mitchell. There are just two children who deserve to know their father, and a father who needs to decide if he wants to be present in their lives." Emma's sincerity deeply touched the boy's grandmother. Without words, she just held the young woman's hands, in a silent gesture of gratitude and respect. That same afternoon, Tyler's video was published on his social networks. With a haggard appearance, visible dark circles, and without his usual charisma, he admitted that he had made errors of judgment in the past. "When I learned about the HEEU pregnancy, I wasn't ready to be a father," he confessed with a controlled voice. "I made decisions that I deeply regret. Fear made me act selfishly, and for that I apologize to everyone involved, especially my children." Carefully edited by the PR team, the video showed remorse without explicitly admitting that he had consciously blocked contact with Emma. It also announced that Tyler was willing to take the DNA test and assume all responsibilities that are confirmed. The public response was mixed. While some applauded his courage in admitting the mistake, others criticized the rehearsed tone and choice of words that seemed to minimize the gravity of the abandonment. On social media, the video quickly accumulated millions of views and divided comments. Megan, watching the statement on her tablet, couldn't contain a bitter laugh. The man who appeared on the screen, with a contrite expression and carefully chosen words, seemed like a stranger compared to the Tyler she thought she knew. How had she been so blind? On impulse, she picked up her phone and called Emma. "Did you watch his video?" she asked, without beating around the bush. "Not yet," replied Emma, surprised by the call. "The boys are with their grandmother now. I took the opportunity to catch up on some schoolwork." Emma worked as a teacher at a preschool, balancing her profession with raising her children. It wasn't a luxurious life, but she managed to maintain a stable routine and provide the essentials for the twins. "Don't waste your time," advised Megan. "It's just another show, like everything he does." After a brief silence, Emma sighed. "You know what's saddest? I really loved him. When I discovered I was pregnant, I thought it would be the beginning of a family, not the end of a relationship." "I loved him too," confessed Megan. "Or thought I did. Now I realize I loved the idea. Of him, the public image. The real Tyler is someone neither of us truly knew." The conversation between the two women lasted almost an hour. They shared stories, discovered coincidences in the lies they had heard, laughed at the irony of having fallen for the same fairy tale. By the end, there was an unlikely connection between them born from shared pain. "If you need anything, count on me," said Megan before hanging up. "And I say this not out of pity or guilt, but because I admire your strength. Raising 2 children alone, facing everything you faced, that requires a courage few have." Emma thanked her, moved by the sincere gesture. Amid all the chaos, finding understanding where she least expected it was a balm for her exhausted soul. In the days that followed, the consequences of the scandal continued to unfold. The network officially announced Tyler's removal for an indefinite period, replacing him with another host on the Sunday program. Sponsors suspended contracts, invitations to events were cancelled, and even his fan page on social networks lost thousands of followers. The DNA test, as everyone expected, confirmed paternity with 99.9% certainty. The result was delivered directly to the lawyers of both parties without the media circus that Tyler so feared. It was officially proven Luke and Matthew were his biological children. With the confirmation came the need to establish formal agreements: child support, visitation, participation in important decisions about the children's education and health. Tyler, advised by his father and sister, decided to be more generous than the law would require. He offered substantial child support, a premium health plan, and even proposed buying a larger apartment for Emma and the children in a more central neighborhood. "I don't want your money for myself," replied Emma, firm in her position. "I accept what's for the children's benefit, but nothing that seems like an attempt to buy my silence or gratitude." 3 weeks after the fateful day of the cancelled wedding, Tyler finally found the courage to visit his children. He woke up early, chose discreet clothes to not draw attention, and drove his less flashy car to Emma's address. His heart was racing when he rang the doorbell. Emma answered with a neutral expression and invited him in. The apartment was simple, but welcoming, decorated with children's drawings and photographs of the twins at different moments. "They're in the bedroom, getting ready," Emma informed, indicating a sofa for him to sit. "They're very excited. They've been talking about you all week." Tyler swallowed hard, guilt weighing on his shoulders like never before. "How should I introduce myself? What did you tell them about me?" "The truth always," replied Emma, without hostility, but with firmness. "That you are their father, that you were very busy with work, but that now you want to get to know them better. They're small, they don't understand all the complexities." Before he could respond, the sound of hurried footsteps was heard. Luke and Matthew entered the living room, dressed identically, with Spider-Man t-shirts and sneakers that flashed lights with each step. They stopped upon seeing Tyler, suddenly shy in front of the father they knew only from television. "Hello," said Tyler, with a voice choked by the unexpected emotion that assaulted him. These children were unquestionably his, the same eyes, the same face shape, even the way they slightly tilted their heads when curious. "Are you really our dad?" asked Luke, the more extroverted of the two, taking a step forward. Tyler hesitated for a second, then nodded. "Yes, I am, and I'm very happy to finally meet you properly." Matthew, the shyer one, remained slightly behind, his brother observing attentively. "Why did you never come visit us before?" The question, asked with the brutal sincerity that only children possess, hit Tyler like a physical blow. He briefly looked at Emma, who observed him with an impassive expression, clearly indicating that the answer was his responsibility. I made a mistake," he finally admitted, opting for the simplified truth. Sometimes adults are afraid and make mistakes, but I'm here now, and I promise I won't disappear anymore. Luke seemed to accept the explanation, approaching more. Do you want to see my dinosaur collection? I have a T-Rex that roars when you press the button. I'd love to see it, replied Tyler, feeling a strange mixture of relief and emotion he couldn't name. Emma, noticing that the boys were more at ease, suggested, "Why don't you show your father your room? Meanwhile, I'll prepare a snack for everyone." The twins nodded enthusiastically, each taking one of Tyler's hands and pulling him toward the hallway. As he was guided by the children he barely knew, Tyler felt a certainty growing inside him. Nothing in his life, not the TV success, not the fame, not the material achievements, compared to the sensation of having his hands held by those children who carried his blood and his future. In the kitchen, Emma prepared sandwiches and juice, trying to control her own emotions. She no longer felt romantic love for Tyler. That had been buried years ago with each frustrated contact attempt. But seeing her children finally meeting their father awakened a complex mixture of feelings. Joy for their happiness, apprehension about Tyler's constancy, cautious hope that he would really change for the better. The sound of childish laughter echoed through the small apartment. In the bedroom, Tyler let himself be guided through his children's world. Dinosaurs, superheroes, children's books, drawings made at school. Each object told the story of a childhood in which he had not participated, milestones and moments he would never recover. "This is you," said Matthew shyly, showing a drawing where 3 stick figures represented him, his brother, and a larger figure identified as Daddy in shaky letters. "When did you make this drawing?" asked Tyler, moved. "At school, when the teacher asked us to draw our family. I didn't know what you looked like, so I drew you big and strong," explained the boy. Tyler swallowed the lump that formed in his throat. "It's a very beautiful drawing. Can I keep it with me?" Matthew nodded, proud to have his work valued. Luke, not wanting to be left behind, immediately began showing his own drawings, explaining each detail with the infinite energy typical of childhood. In the living room, Emma's cell phone rang. It was Bethany, wanting to know how the first meeting was going. "Surprisingly well," informed Emma. "The children accepted him with ease. Children are like that, they don't hold grudges." "And you?" asked Bethany, concerned about her friend. "Me?" Emma sighed. "I'm fine. It's not about me. It's about them. If Tyler really commits to being a present father, that's good enough for me." The snack was served at the small table in the living room, with the twins monopolizing the conversation, eager to tell their father about all their adventures, their preferences, their childish dreams. Tyler listened to them with genuine attention, realizing how easy it was to be charmed by these children who were so similar to him, not just physically but in small gestures and expressions. Emma observed in silence, intervening only to encourage Matthew's shyer moments or moderate Luke's enthusiasm. It was strange to see Tyler there, sitting at her table, interacting with the children he had denied for so long. It seemed like an alternative reality, something she had dreamed of in the first months after the twins' birth, when she still believed Tyler would change his mind. When it was time for Tyler to leave, the boys protested. "Will you come back tomorrow?" asked Luke, hopeful. "Not tomorrow, but very soon," promised Tyler, surprised by his own reluctance to leave. "And maybe this weekend we can go on an outing together, perhaps to the zoo." The twins' eyes shone with the prospect. Emma intervened, cautious. "Let's arrange it properly later, okay? For now, I think it's better not to create specific expectations." Tyler understood the implicit message. Emma still didn't trust that he would keep his promises, and she had every right to doubt. "Of course, we'll organize gradually." He said goodbye to his children with an awkward hug, still not accustomed to paternal physical contact. At the door, he exchanged a few words with Emma about the next steps, the formal agreement being prepared by the lawyers, the children's routine that he needed to know and respect. "Thank you for today," he finally said, sincerely grateful for the opportunity. "I know I don't deserve your understanding after everything." "It's not for you," replied Emma, direct as always. "It's for them. They deserve to have a father, And you deserve the chance to be one. Don't waste it. Tyler nodded, understanding the responsibility implicit in those words. As he left the modest building where his children had grown up without his presence, he felt the weight of his past choices, but also, for the first time, the concrete possibility of redemption. The public scandal he had so feared had, ironically, opened the way for something he had never imagined wanting or needing: the chance to know his children, to be part of their lives, to discover a dimension of himself he didn't know existed. Driving back to his apartment, now silent after the wedding cancellation and Megan's departure, Tyler realized he had lost a lot: his impeccable public image, million-dollar contracts, the respect of colleagues, an advantageous marriage. But he had gained something that, surprisingly, was beginning to seem more valuable: the chance to rebuild his life on more authentic foundations, starting with the relationship with the children he had denied. In the months that followed, the lives of everyone involved underwent significant transformations. Tyler, away from television, took advantage of the forced time away from the spotlight to invest in the relationship with his children. Weekend outings became routine, as did visits during the week to help with homework, or simply for a family dinner. Emma, initially cautious, gradually began to trust Tyler's constancy more. Seeing him genuinely interested in the boys' lives, committed to schedules and responsibilities, made the barriers she had erected slowly begin to dissipate. Megan, free from the relationship that had proved to be a farce, immersed herself in her own projects. She opened a contemporary art gallery, a dream she had put in second place while with Tyler. To general surprise, she invited Emma to the inauguration. The two women, united by the shared experience, developed an unlikely but sincere friendship. Bethany strengthened ties with her sister-in-law and nephews, becoming a constant presence in their lives. She made up for the lost years by being the present aunt she had always wanted to be, and the loyal friend Emma needed in difficult moments. Mrs. Mitchell transformed into the doting grandmother the twins adored. She visited them regularly, took them on outings, bought presents no longer out of guilt but out of pure affection. In secret, she started a fund for the grandchildren's higher education, ensuring they would have all the opportunities they deserved. Robert, the patriarch, observed his son's transformation with a mixture of cautious pride and renewed hope. Although Tyler still had much to prove, the first steps indicated a maturity that his father believed had finally arrived. 6 months after the scandal, Tyler received a proposal to return to television, this time in a different format: a weekly program about fatherhood, family challenges, and reconciliations. The irony escaped no one, but the sincerity with which he spoke about his mistakes and learnings resonated with the audience in a way his former polished character never could. In his first appearance on the new program, Tyler did something that surprised everyone. He invited Emma to participate as a special guest. Together, they openly discussed the difficult past, the mistakes made, and the future they were building, for the sake of their children. There was no romance between them. That chapter was definitely closed, but there was respect and a common purpose. "What would you say to other women facing a similar situation?" asked the host to Emma at one point. "To fight for their children's rights, but not let bitterness define their lives," she replied, with the serenity earned at great cost. "Children need love, not revenge." The program was an unexpected success. The story of Tyler and Emma, with all its complexities, touched the audience in a way that artificial narratives never could. It was real, imperfect, but authentic in its message of repentance and new beginnings. On the twins' 5th birthday, a party was organized in the garden of Robert and Linda Mitchell's house. Present were friends from school, family members, and even Megan, who arrived with a new boyfriend. The atmosphere was one of genuine celebration, without the tensions of the first meetings. Tyler, watching his sons run around the garden, approached Emma, who was organizing the last details of the dessert table. "Can you believe we made it this far?" he asked with a light smile. "Honestly? No," she replied, also smiling. "There were days when I thought you would never be part of their lives. And I thank you every day for not giving up," confessed Tyler, with a sincerity he had learned to cultivate. "For showing up at that wedding, even knowing how difficult it would be. I didn't do it for you or for me, Emma reminded him, looking fondly at her children. I did it for them, and looking now it was worth every second of embarrassment. Tyler nodded, understanding perfectly. His gaze also followed the boys, who were now enthusiastically showing their new toys to Grandfather Robert. They are the best part of me, he finally said, and I almost lost that. The party proceeded merrily with laughter and games. When the time came for the happy birthday song, Luke and Matthew pulled their father and mother to stand beside them as they blew out the candles. The photographs of that moment, shared with permission on Tyler's social networks, showed not a couple, but a family united by love for the children, built in an unconventional way, but no less true. That night, after the party, with the twins, already sleeping exhausted at their grandparents' house where they would spend the weekend, Tyler and Emma talked on the porch, recalling the long road traveled. "Did you know I received an offer to write a book about our story?" commented Emma, sipping a cup of tea. "Really? And what did you reply?" asked Tyler, curious. "That we're still writing this story, every day. That there isn't a perfectly tied, happy ending, just people trying to do their best with the circumstances they have." Tyler smiled, recognizing the wisdom in her words. "I think you summed it up perfectly." They looked together at the starry sky, each lost in their own thoughts. They weren't a couple, would never be again. But they had found something perhaps more valuable, an honest partnership based on the well-being of the children they shared. The cancelled wedding, which once seemed like the end of the world to Tyler, had been just the beginning of a much more significant journey. Where before there were only appearances and ambitions, now there were real connections, responsibilities, assumed, and a kind of happiness that no million-dollar contract could buy. And so, under the Chicago sky, two people who had once loved and deeply hurt each other celebrated not a return to the past, but the building of a future where their children could grow up knowing they were loved, that they belonged, that they were the beginning and not the end of a story of redemption. The end of the story. Dear listener, what would you think if you were in Emma's place? Did Tyler deserve forgiveness? Leave your comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more moving stories that explore the complexities of human relationships.